Hello, my name is Reiji, and welcome to my new video series where I talk about books I've read. Long story short, I intend to publish a book or two in the future, but I'm terribly insecure about my own writing skills. To help my nerves, I decided to read books in the same genre that I plan on writing for, and hope that I can better evaluate my own writing skills in the process. In December of 2024, while looking for books that people were recommending, I came across Cemetery Boys, written by Aiden Thomas. On Goodreads, the synopsis reads as, "Bestowed by the ancient goddess of death, Yadiel and his Latinx family can see spirits. Women have the power to heal bodies and souls, while the men can release lost spirits to the afterlife. But Yadiel, a trans boy, has never been able to perform the task of a bruja because he is a brujo. When his cousin suddenly dies, Yadiel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself, and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is not his cousin. It's Julian Diaz, the resident bad boy of his high school, and Julian is not about to go quietly into death. He's determined to find out what happened and cut off some loose ends before he leaves. Left with no other choice, Yadiel agrees to help Julian so that they can both get what they want. But the longer Yadiel spends with Julian, the less he wants him to leave. I want to preface by saying that I plan on being true to my own opinions. I will acknowledge that some of my criticisms are subjective, so take it with a grain of salt. With that being said, before I get into spoiler territory, here's my overall opinion on the novel. Pros. The characters were phenomenal, and I don't say that lightly. The story was very interesting. The setup was very unique, and to me that is a plus. Subjective. 80% of the story is amazingly paced, but then the ending was really rushed. And this is just my opinion, but I think some of the side characters should have gotten more involvement in the story, and I was a little bit disappointed that they weren't as involved as I thought they would have been. Cons. The mystery setup was great, don't get me wrong, but the execution of it was kinda bad. Overall, I decided to give this book a 5 out of 7 stars. Since this is the first video of the quasi-book review series, let me explain my rating system. Books can be rated from 7 out of 7 to 0 out of 7 for me. 7 out of 7 means I absolutely love this book to no end. Irregardless of whether or not I can think of cons, it's more of a feeling of I don't care, I love this book so much, this changed my brain chemistry kind of rating. 6 out of 7 is a book that I do love a lot, and I struggle to come up with any cons. 5 out of 7 means that while I can come up with cons, and I do generally like the book a whole lot, I feel like the pros outweigh the cons. 4 out of 7 is more of a neutral, I like this book a lot, but there's pros and there's cons. 3 out of 7 is a neutral, I like this book, but the cons kinda outweigh the pros. 2 out of 7 is, this book is okay, but it wasn't really for me. 1 out of 7 is, I don't like the book. And 0 stars is just, I hate it. Now with that out of the way, I'm going to go into the spoiler territory where I actually talk about my opinions in more details. If you rather just read the book yourself and come up with your own opinions, feel free to stop the video now and go read it. I'm going to start with the more negative aspects of my opinions so that I can end the video on a positive note. And with that, I'm actually going to talk about both the pacing and how the mystery execution kinda flopped. There is no such thing as one good kind of pacing, because when people say this is paced well, what they usually mean that it is paced consistently. And for 80% of the book, it was paced consistently until towards the end, there was a massive spike. Mystery as a genre, something that I am very intimately familiar with, is a genre where the pacing is absolutely important. A mystery that works is a mystery that functions much like a character development. The mystery, the question, is introduced. The characters learn more about this mystery by trying to figure it out, and as they learn certain clues, eventually that should lead to the revelation. And then after the revelation, it's the aftermath of how they're going to handle the revelation. That is the process of how a mystery works. Now here's the problem. A lot of writers who aren't very good at writing mystery primarily only focus on 2 points instead of the 4, which is the introduction and then the revelation, where they often treat the revelation to be the most important aspect of the story instead of the whole thing. And what they end up doing is that they rely on shocking plot twist without understanding why a shocking plot twist can be satisfying. Now, this is probably the most unpopular opinion you'll hear, but your mystery doesn't need a plot twist to be satisfying. But if you do want to have a plot twist, you actually have to put an effort into the solving aspect of the mystery. And the problem is, so many writers are very insecure about wanting their plot twist to remain shocking and unpredictable that they purposely sabotage the solving aspect of the mystery so that the readers really couldn't figure out who the culprit or the killer is, even if they really wanted to, because the author purposely hid very valuable evidence away from the reader and also from the main characters. So Cemetery Boys actually has 2 mysteries going on at the same time. The first one being what happened to Miguel, Yadiel's cousin, who has been mysteriously murdered and vanished where they could not find his body. And number 2, what happened to Julian, another boy who seemed to have been murdered during the same night, but no one has also found his body. With 2 mysteries going on, you would expect that they would focus on each mystery equally, but in reality they primarily only focus on Julian's situation while the family off-screen handles Miguel's situation. So this is what I mean by the process of the figuring out stage of the mystery sometimes feel sabotaged. So Julian made it very clear that the only thing he cares about is making sure that his friends are okay. And so the main characters find his friends and they are okay, but his friends know nothing about what happened to Julian and they are worried. Later on, we found out that Julian has a brother, and after several arguments, they were able to speak with the brother to figure out if he knows anything about Julian's disappearance, to which he is convinced that Julian ran away, and he basically knows nothing. Eventually, they do go to the park where Julian was attacked, and they found practically nothing. Now, from the reader's point of view, there were a few cases where the reader could come up with certain theories better than the main character could. For example, with mystery fans, we're all familiar with Chekhov's gun. There was a scene where Lita talked about how certain daggers were missing, and if that was mentioned, it's reasonable to believe that it might be brought up later, which it was. So, daggers. And when talking to Julian's friends, they did mention about how kids like them are easy to be kidnapped and no one cares, and that some kids have been going missing lately. But other than that, there isn't really much for the readers to go off of. So after the park situation, the characters primarily took a pause in the mystery aspect, and it was mostly focused on emotional character work that was done very well. But by the time the mystery was picked up again, well, it was when they found Julian's body underneath the old church at the cemetery, where the culprit, and I kid you not, randomly appeared behind them and then started to reveal his manifesto of why he did it. And then a few pages later of, no, don't do this, uncle, don't do this, the usual. Eventually he got tooketh, and then, some situation happened where Yadiel used his ability to try to bring back the 4 people who have passed away back to life, but then he was dying. Then Maritza brought him back to good health, and then they were rushed to the hospital, and then time skip, they woke up soon. Before you know it, the story ends. And you might be thinking, no way, you're exaggerating that ridiculous fast pacing. But I'm really not. It really felt that way. So I hope you can understand why I said that the mystery was kinda not great, and that the pacing was sped up towards the end. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this would have fixed the mystery, but I do think the mystery could have been better if the main characters had connected some dots and created more theories on who they think might have done it. Basically, what I think would have been better if Yadiel and Maritza was able to figure out this very kind of obvious conclusion that, well, if Miguel disappeared at the cemetery, and Julian's necklace was found at the cemetery in a church, perhaps the culprit is someone who has access to the cemetery, and because none of the family members found anyone suspicious, maybe the culprit is a family member. That would have at least flowed better to when the reveal was that it was his uncle who has always been super nice to him. It would have also flowed better if the uncle had showed more signs of resentment of being the black sheep of the family, rather than complacency consistently and just being constantly nice to, Yadiel, because I'm assuming it's because it would be more emotionally shocking for Yadiel that his closest family member was actually the killer the whole time. But I'm gonna be honest, again, as a mystery fan, I am personally tired of shocking plot twists because most people sabotage the solving part, and it's just not as satisfying as some people think it is. I find that people who aren't crazy big mystery fans tend to like the shocking plot twist more because they like being shocked, but people who actually really love to dissect what makes mystery tend to not like it that much. And the other kind of subjective con, but may not be a con because it's very subjective, is that I did wish for the side characters to have more involvement in the mystery, specifically Julian's friends, because Julian just made such a big deal about making sure that he wants his friends to be safe, and made a big deal about how much he cares about his friends, and that his friends in turn really care about him. but other than Luca, they kind of just disappeared from the story and then came back to the hospital visit. And I don't know, it felt like they could have been utilized more. Now, after hearing all of that, you're probably wondering, then why the hell did you give this a 5 out of 7 if you feel very passionately about the cons? And the truth is, I do feel very passionately about the cons. But, and here's another unpopular opinion, I can forgive a mystery that fumbles if the characters are really good. If the writer can make me care so much about the main characters and even the side characters to the point where I actively want to see more of the side characters, and I wish that there was just more of them. The fact that when I heard that Cemetery Boys is having a sequel book coming out very soon, and my reaction was, oh yippee, can I finally get to see more of the characters that I wanted to see? These positive feelings I have towards the characters and how the characters are characterized are very important. I can forgive so much in a story, so long as I care about the characters. And that's the thing with Cemetery Boys. The best thing about it are the characters. The characters are phenomenal. Sure, perhaps the author maybe not the best mystery writer, but you can tell that he genuinely cares about his own characters, and you can tell with the amount of work and effort he puts into them. Like, they are, oh my god, I'm a record. They are really good. I understand with nowadays, especially with how people treat criticism, they think that it comes from a place of hate, but the truth is most of my criticism come from a place of passion. The thing is, considering that the book mostly focuses on the character work than it does on the mystery aspect, it's not like it's a net lose of reading it. Sure, as a mystery fan, it's a little disappointing that the mystery kind of gets shunted to the side in favor of the character development, but as someone who's also an avid fan of character development, I still found the book enjoyable. If you're a fan of spooky, urban fantasy, LGBT books, I highly recommend this one. It's also free on Kindle Unlimited, so that's neat. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and I hope you enjoy the opinionated review. Bye-bye.